Okay, welcome back, Silver Ball fans. Welcome back to Silver Ball channel. We're going to talk a bit more about the carbon tax, Australia's newest disaster. Thank those people who watched the video I did, and especially those who've commented on it. What do I recommend you do to let your politicians know? It's very easy. Go to www.pm.gov.au, the Prime Minister's website. Hit that button where it says contact your MP and send her off an email letting her know that you do not like it. 90% of Australians are against this tax. Courier Mail poll, that one's from. No one wants this tax. They can see it's going to be a nightmare. The Prime Minister still reckons she can sell it to the Australian people, and that's what she's going to try to do. It's our job to tell her no way, and it's not hard. You don't even have to go out on the streets and protest. Just send her an email, contact your MP and just say it. Julia, no way, I don't want this carbon tax. Now, she's not going to read her emails personally. It would be physically impossible for her to answer all her emails personally, but she's got a team of staffers at Canberra who go through all their emails, and they probably don't read them all in great detail, so I wouldn't, have a huge log there, but I'd certainly let them know how you feel about it, and they will put them into various piles, and if they have, they'd be lucky to have a few thousand people contact them normally. If we had 100,000 Australians, just 100,000 email them and say, no way do we want this carbon tax, they would shit themselves. I'm telling you, they would realise what a vote loser it is. And at the end of the day, politicians have to listen to the people. Yes, they have special interest groups. They have banksters and others who try to pull their strings. But they can go to their overlords and say, I can't sell this to the people. I'm going to lose this. Give me more time. Let me delay it. A million different things. It's not always going to result in an assassination, as we've seen with other political leaders who haven't done as they've told and ended up assassinated, if you believe this conspiracy theories. But the fact of the matter is, if the people scream out and say no way, they'll back off. So, get off your ass. Go to the website, contact your PM. If you want to go further, there's also places where you can contact your local members, just under Australian Government, type in, or Australian Federal Government, search it up, and you can contact your local member as well. But at the minimum, contact the Prime Minister, let her know you do not want this carbon tax. I've done it myself. Don't be afraid. You live in a democracy, you have a right to say your view. Do so. Exercise that right, or you will lose it. Stand up, be a man or woman, and say, no way. Contact your PM, let them know. And I tell you now, if they had 100,000 emails screaming no way, they would literally shit themselves. Oh, fuck, we've done the wrong thing. Do it. Alright, enough of that. I can't make you politically active. I'm not asking you to go out there and protest. I'm not asking you to join a political party. I'm not asking you to form a political party. Let the politicians know they work for you. We are in a democracy. If they want to run a dictatorship, come out and have the balls to say they want to run a dictatorship. Then we'll do whatever we need to do. But they say it's a democracy. Let's have a democracy. A democracy means rule by the people. And let them know how you feel. Alright, I got on my thing here, the truth about the carbon tax. Had someone say, are all the scientists wrong? Well, one, it's not all the scientists. Even if you said it's most of the scientists, you'd have to argue that some of them are politically motivated, because that's where their money comes from, their grant money, and certainly some of them in Britain especially got in trouble for feeding false stats, using stats they knew to be false, because they were being pushed to come out with a certain answer, and that's not impartial science, alright? But let's take it, for example, that the scientists are right. One, not all greenhouse gases come from human beings. In fact, the vast majority don't. They're not caused by humans. and they're out of our control. To assume climate alone is controlled by greenhouse gases is naive. There's many other things that control the climate. It's too complex a model for people to understand totally. You've got sunspots that control the amount of heat given out by the sun, and that can affect Earth's climate. There's cloud cover. There's a million other different things that can affect it. Ocean currents, all sorts of things. Alright. The fact is, has the Earth ever been warmer than it has been now? Yes, it has. In fact, we know from history it has. Reliable history. We take most of the Roman history to be very correct. Historians like Pliny the Elder and people of that line. You know, they talk about growing grapevines in Scotland. Well, you speak to a Scottish person now and ask him whether he can grow a grapevine in Scotland, and he'll tell you, well, laddie, I can't do a good Scottish accent, but he'll probably say, well, laddie, no chance, no chance. It won't grow there now, but it used to. In the Roman Empire days, it used to. That tells us it was a much warmer place back then, or at least the Roman Empire was a lot warmer back then. I'm not going to say they knew what the temperature was like down in Australia, but it's sensible to imply from the fact that you could grow grapes up in Scotland, what is now Scotland, that the fact of the matter was it was a lot warmer back then. Have there been colder periods now? Certainly. There was a time when the Thames used to freeze over every winter, and they used to use it as a skate rink. I don't think that's happened for many a year in London. They had the Middle Ages cold patch, which is partly why they call it the Dark Ages. It was a miserable time to be alive. In fact, sometimes having a warmer planet's a benefit. But whether you believe it's a benefit or not, or whether you believe this greenhouse gases need to be brought under control, the simple fact of the matter is a tax is not the best way to do that. A emissions trading scheme isn't the best way to do that. If anything we've learnt from silver is that it's a manipulated market. Well, how manipulated do you think an emissions trading scheme is going to be? It's only going to be really open to the big players, the Rothschilds and like. And if you don't believe me, this is their own publication, Rothschild Australia and E3 International, to take a lead in the global carbon trading market. This ain't a conspiracy. This is what they say they're doing. Sydney, Australia. Rothschild Australia, E3 International, about to become key players in the international carbon credit trading market. An emerging market, commodity market that analysts estimate could be worth up to $150 billion by 2012. This, I believe, was written back in 1992. These guys plan well ahead, and they saw this was an opportunity for them to create a new market that they could monopolise. In a move that will reshape the fledgling emission trading market, Rothschild Australia announced their intentions to launch the Carbon Ring Consortium. Alright, and they're going to invest in basically greenhouse gas emission liabilities. They're going to make money out of it. Plain and simple. Alright? Rothschilds. They want to make money out of it. Alright? That people ask me, how do you get $3 billion a year? Well, $3 billion a year going overseas is because Australia says they're going to get rid of 160 million tons of carbon emissions a year. 60 million of those will be done by getting rid of our own dirty producers and our own offsets here, i.e. growing trees, whatever, pumping it into the ground, whatever they agree is a good way to get rid of carbon. The rest of it, 100 million, is going to be bought overseas, and they're averaging a price at $30, which I think is a gross underestimation. And in a manipulated market, they'll make the price whatever they want. Maybe $50 a tonne. Maybe we'll be talking about $5 billion a year. So basically, Australia will be sending over $3 billion a year, I said. Could be higher. For what? They don't get any goods in return. They don't get any services in return. You send that billions of dollars overseas on the promise that someone's going to offset that carbon. Now, you're going to trust China or Nigeria or New Zealand or any other nation in the world to do that? What if they say, oh, we're going to offset the carbon credit, your carbon liability by planting a new forest, and it's going to suck up this much carbon? What happens if the forest burns down? Are they going to give you the money back? What if they say, oh no, we've worked out a way to sequester it in the ground, and they pump it in the ground, and then 50 years later the stuff starts leaking out, and they go, oh well, that just happens. You know, this is just a con. And if you can't see it's a con, you need to wake the hell up. Emissions trading scheme is a con. Alright? You're trading in a gas. And it's not a gas you burn, like LPG or something. It's a gas that we breathe out. A gas that cows breathe out. Sheep. Even plants will emit some CO2. You know, the whole scheme is open to widespread corruption, double dipping. If we think they're bad now when it comes to the shenanigans in the mega corporations, you're pissed off with Goldman Sachs and some of those already. Can you imagine what the hell they're going to do with a ETS scheme with $150 billion? You know? Yeah, just let them into the piggy bank. You know, let them go crazy. They will root the world economy. We will be slaves quicker than you can say, are those handcuffs for me? Alright, wake the hell up. So is there a way to get rid of our carbon? And the fact of the matter is, yes there is. If you want to get rid of CO2 gas, this one's produced by the University of Melbourne. It's called Australia Sustainable Energy Zero Carbon Australia Stationary Energy Plan. By stationary energy, they're talking about your power plants. You know, what we've got, mainly coal-fired power plants and that. They're talking about replacing all those, and that makes up for over 50% of our carbon emissions. This, they say, they could do within 10 years. They've already selected the sites. They've already said how they're going to do it. And they've already worked out the costs. It would be a 10-year roadmap for 100% renewable energy, not including cars, not including heavy vehicles. But I mean, if you've got shitloads of electricity, it suddenly makes electrified trains and other things look a lot more attractive. But anyhow, how will they do it? Mainly through wind power and solar power. Australia has so much empty land and desert that could be cheaply converted to solar stations. Now, it's not like a solar panel on the roof of your house, alright? These are big ones with mirrors, and to all us silver bugs, that would be ideally silver mirrors. They heat up a salt on the top there. They're basically transferring the heat of the sun to there at many, 1,000 degrees or whatever, heats it up, and it stores that heat energy in thermal salts. And those salts can keep that energy for days in an insulated tank that lose less than 1% of the heat. So they're good for 60 days. So don't think, oh, it's only good when the sun's shining. No, they collect the energy and they store it for up to 2 months. Alright, and then they can use the heat in that thermal salt to power steam generators, as per most of our plants are some form of spinning generator. Hydro plant is a spinning generator. A coal-fired plant, it's the heat that heats up water which they use to spin the turbines. Alright, so they're talking through this plan, which at $8 per household per week's probably cheaper than the government's plan now. And if you're gonna ping the 1,000 top industries or the 500, it would be probably, I mean, that could be a cost passed on to industry. It wouldn't even have to be passed on directly to the consumer, and therefore you wouldn't have to directly compensate the consumer. And I believe long term, once you have all this set up, it's economy of scale, and it's long term. You know, you're not forever digging up coal to feed a hungry generator. The sun's there. I mean, the sun's not there, we're all dead anyhow. So have a read of that report if you're into that sort of stuff. It's done by a whole bunch of professors. 194 pages, but it's very simple to understand. If you've done any sort of university education, you should be able to understand what they're talking about. They go into a bunch of graphs here that make it even easier to understand. They go into what solar type of thing they're talking about, the various charts, the best places for them, how much they should use in wind turbine, how much in solar, and they're talking about using 2% of the system would be water or biomass as a backup, just in case the sun and wind let us down, which is very unlikely in Australia. Have a read of that. That's a great thing. And I emailed a link off to Julia, and I said, you were asking for better ideas. Here's a better idea. Throw away the ETS. You know, have a look at this. I think it's a much better idea. The ETS is just a chance for your Wall Street bankers to make a killing off your economy. That's all it is. It's so Rothschilds, and alright, they're a banking clan, and if you look at their history, I have a certain opinion about some of the deeds they've done in the past, and are probably doing right now. But they try to paint themselves as a caring environmental company. But I don't like their plan. The ETS is crap. It's just a chance for bankers to make money, brutally honest. And they say themselves, hey, why not make money off it? Well, because we don't want to pay to make you richer. You're rich enough now. How much is enough, you greedy bastards? Calm down. Have a read of that. Alright, it's you can see the link there. I'll put it in the description. That's about as detailed as I'm going to get. Alright, I tried to make that other video short and sweet, and not go into boring of the science. But for any science geeks out there, or nerds, or people who are really environmentally green and believe in all this stuff, have a read of this. This is by far a better option. Alright, that's my rant for the day. That's quite a detailed. I don't know how long this is going to be. Probably about 15 minutes or more. But this is what they should do, instead of handing it over to an ETS market in 3 years or 4 years, and just basically have another futures market for carbon. They could do this for the people. Time and time again, our government roots us over. They sell our LPG, which we've got huge amounts of this gas, huge amounts of reserves. We sell it to the Chinese at 3 cents a litre. Yet for me to fill my gas bottle here for a house costs well over $100. They are ripping off the Australian consumer. Our resources are being given to other parts of the world dirt cheap, while they rape us at the most expensive price they can get it. We have a very avarice government that is more than happy to parasitise off its own people, instead of allowing us to use our resources cheaply. Imagine if we sold the gas here at that sort of price. What sort of stimulus would that be to our industry? What sort of stimulus would that be to our employment? There would be really no excuse for anyone to be on unemployment benefits if we used our own resources for our own economy, instead of shipping it all overseas. Anyhow, that's my rant. Tell me what you think. Feel free to comment below. If you like some of the things I've said here, like it up. If you've got a better idea, or if you've come across something better, feel free to mention it below. If you've got a link, put it in. And please, we still live in a democracy. So contact your MP. It only takes you a minute. Your PM, sorry, your Prime Minister, and your local MP. It'll take you a minute. Tell them what you think. Only that way will they realise the strength of the opinion of the Australian people. They will respect the people if the people stand up and say, no way. Alright. If they realise they can't con us over it, that we're well aware of what they're doing and why they're doing it. And they're not doing it for environmental reasons. They're doing it to make banksters even richer. Alright? Have a good day. Keep stacking. I'll try to get on to some silver in due course. This is Silver Bull Channel signing off.